with Overwatch 2 Season 14, we got the first official 6v6 playtest for the possibility of 6v6 returning sometime in 2025, probably at the very earliest. But with this playtest, we got a bunch of balance changes, and is overall the first time we actually got the playtest for 6v6. So with a lot of the new heroes being added to the game, there were a lot of questions whether a lot of these new heroes that got added with Overwatch 2 would be good in 6v6, along with a bunch of other things. So we're going to kind of be talking about the 6v6 playtest, at least test number 1. Depending on what this video does, I might do more videos kind of discussing the further playtests for 6v6. We also had Overwatch Classic, which was technically 6v6 as well, but I don't know if that was really considered a test, or if that was just like a mini type of test to see if it actually would run smoothly on a lot of the different platforms, which I think was kind of what it was in hindsight. But kind of going to be more of a discussion video, not going to be too much on screen. I will be ranking a lot of the heroes and talking about all the heroes individually. Not very in depth at all. There's mainly some of the ones that actually experience some of the changes or how some newer ones play in 6v6. By all means, let me know what you guys think of the 6v6 playtest number 1 in the comments down below. I'd love to hear you guys' opinion, what you guys actually think of it so far. At least for me, I think 6v6 is probably the best the game has been. The 6v6 playtest number 1 has been in the game for about 3 days now. It is the funnest the game has been, and at least for me, for 10 seasons. I love it. I love 6v6. It's great. There's a few major problems that they can change, which it's not really even that major because they're really simple changes. The main ones, which we'll talk about, are the passives, which I think need to get pretty much eliminated. But apart from that, there's just a few minor things I would change with a few individual heroes. But overall, for the first 6v6 playtest, I think it's a really good spot for the game, and it kind of just goes to show how 6v6 at least being implemented with all the current heroes. There really isn't much they need to do balance-wise as they thought they would need to do, and you can kind of, at least with this, kind of throw what they first did with this and throw it in as a rough draft, and you kind of go from there, which we'll talk about. So the main thing we're going to talk about, at least getting into this, is the role passives. Leave a like, subscribe, share the video. Like I said, I might do more of these videos depending on what this one does with the next couple 6v6 play tests going forward. This is the not only number 1, the official first one. We have 2 or 3 more coming up in the next few seasons. So if you guys like these types of videos, leave a like and subscribe. The video does well. Keep on doing these going forward. So first thing is the role passives. If you guys don't know the role passives, there is still role passives for the tanks and the supports. The tanks, if you shoot at them, you gain 25% less ultimate charge, but then it needs to be completely eliminated. And then you still have the anti-heal passive for the DPS, which now no longer actually gets a diminished amount when you're also shooting the tanks. It's all 15% now. They reduced it from, I think it was 20 or 25 down to 15%, which is fine. But I feel like that needs to be completely eliminated because it's really holding a lot of the supports back. The 2 main issues with the 6v6 playtest right now is both of the role passives for the tank and the DPS. The cauterize anti-heal passive needs to go. Same with the tank passives. There should be no role passives at all for any of this stuff. We didn't have role passives in 6v6 and Overwatch 1, and we should not have them in Overwatch 2. I think they took away the support one. I don't think the support one actually has it, unless it's technically still the regenerating health after being out of combat for a while, which is pretty much a global kind of passive now. So, but the main issue that with this, at least the number 1 6v6 playtest, is the role passives. They got to get rid of the anti-heal, and they got to get rid of the ultimate charge reduction on going after the tanks. I think we need to get rid of those, just mainly because that was never a thing in Overwatch 1. Why do we have role passives when that was never a thing in Overwatch 1? I have no idea. It's also holding a lot of stuff back. The main thing that I think actually are suffering with 6v6, and at least it feels the shittiest to play, is the supports, in my honest opinion, at least from what I've played so far. It feels like you can't keep anything fully sustained. You're constantly healing your ass off, and you still can't keep anything fully topped off on health. You're always trying to heal something at low health, which is fine, which is what a support's supposed to do. But I don't want to be sitting there healing 24/7 and having everything die because there's too much damage and I can't heal them enough. That's kind of the problem right now, and I think the main issue with that and why the supports overall probably feel the worst out of all the roles currently is just because of the DPS role passive with the anti-heal shit. That I think if that's removed, I think supports will actually be a lot better and the tanks will actually survive a lot better, which is another kind of a problem too. Like the tanks kind of just fall over a lot of the time. Granted, they aren't as like tanky as they are in 5v5, which they did change balance-wise, a lot of them. But I think one of the main things sometimes when you're playing some of the tanks is you feel like you really can't do anything. There's not enough heals to keep you topped off and like completely full on health like the entire game, no matter how much heals you get from your team or even from yourself in certain cases. It's just not enough most of the time. And that goes back to the DPS role passive again, which I think is a major problem. I think that's the main thing that's kind of making some of the stuff feel kind of bad to play, at least with this first play test. If that's gone, I think we need to go from there. I don't know how that would actually be though. Hopefully that changes. Kind of keeping that in mind. Apart from that, the DPS do feel good to play. I don't know if it's because if it's because the anti-heal passive though. I don't know if once they take away the anti-heal passive, the DPS will go back to being like kind of mid or like the most average to play role. I'm not 100% sure, but right now I think the best role, at least for the first place, is 6v6 is probably the DPS, just because the anti-heal passive, if still being a thing, is just so broken. It's just way too good. I don't know, I say the second's probably the tanks. Tanks can actually play the game now, y'all. You can actually combine tanks with having 2 tanks on a team, and you can actually play the game. There's a lot of really cool tank combinations you can actually make. I've actually seen some really cool ones. Chunker Queen Zarya, Ramatra, Reinhardt. Like, there's a few other ones that I've been seeing that are actually also really cool, with a lot of the new tanks actually being played. Roadhog, Maug, who is absolutely just brain dead. There's a few other ones too that are also really, really cool and kind of fun to use and kind of see being played. So it's not like 5v5 where you have to like absolutely carry the game on your back most of the time, being a solo tank. With this, as long as you actually do really good as yourself, you can still kind of carry and as well kind of support your team. It's not all on you though. As long as at least like half your squad, at least like 3 or 4 of the 6 people on your team are actually playing really well, you have a really good chance of winning most of your games. With 5v5, at least from what I've played so far, it seems, at least comparing it to the 6v6 playtest so far, it seems like from 5v5, like if your supports or your DPS are both garbage, then you just automatically lose no matter how good you play. Same if like one of your DPS is just dog shit, like you cannot carry enough if you're just a solo DPS. In 5v5, you just still lose most of the time anyways. Same thing with support. At least with 6v6, there's a better chance that you can actually somewhat actually have a really good chance of winning as long as the most of your team's actually playing the game really well, or at least decently well. You have like 1 or 2 people that actually are doing really good on your team. Now granted, there's also a higher chance that people will throw your game because there's an extra person there, but that's something we gotta talk about in the future once it actually gets implemented. I'm not really gonna talk about that very much, but overall, at least for like the playtest so far, like, I've been really enjoying it. Probably like I said, probably the most fun I've had playing the game for at least like 10 seasons. The 6v6 playtest literally saved Season 14 of Overwatch this season. It really did. Without this, I don't know who would still be playing the game, and I probably would barely even be playing at all. So I'm glad they added this, and actually it ends up being really fun. A lot of people like to shit on me and say, oh, all you do is bitch and complain, bro. All you do is be negative. And now I'm actually being positive about something they're actually adding to the game. So for those people that just think all I do is just shit on the game and I hate on the game and that type of shit, well, that apparently they don't watch all my videos, because one of the rare times that I actually enjoy what they're actually putting out and what's actually they added to the game, which ends up being really, really cool and really fun. So I'm going to kind of throw like a little bit of like a tier list on screen for you guys. It's going to be kind of just more of like a simple tier list. I'm not going to really talk about like everything on here like that much. Mainly what this is going to be is like the heroes, at least for this first play test. Whether or not they're playable, if they need some type of changes, whether it's minor or major changes, or if they're like way too good for 6v6 still, at least if it is playtest, if they're like an outlier, at least for what I've seen played so far. Granted, all these games are also like in quick play technically as well. There's no 6v6 like ranked or anything as well currently with the playtest, which makes sense because it's not going to be, it's not an actual game mode. I don't know why they add it as ranked, but So you could maybe argue a lot of your more casual players are also playing it because it's technically a quick play mode. I don't know. But at least for the first playtest is kind of where I'm going to rank all the heroes. You got the OP even in 6v6. The stuff that I think still needs some type of nerfs or changes. It's probably running the game in 5v5 or incredibly good in 5v5. And also really good in this playtest. Playable is just the stuff that works. Like maybe there's some balance changes that we maybe do down the line. But at least as of right now for the first playtest, they're balanced. You can play them. They're great. Like, not bad at all. There you go. It's kind of just the playable tier. And then the need changes, like some of the stuff that needs some type of minor or major changes in some of the next playtests, or like to keep them on par with like the majority of the other heroes. That's kind of what it's really for. So I'm gonna go through this real quick. I'm not gonna really talk about it very much here. Tracer's playable. Not gonna talk about it very much. Reaper's actually really solid in this as well because there's an extra tank now. So Reaper loves shredding tanks that just make Reaper actually a lot better, but at the same time, the enemy team also has an extra tank as well as you, so it's a little bit more even of a playing field. You can't really roll the lobby as easy in like 5v5 sometimes. Widow is still going to OP even 6v6. Still fucking great. That just goes to show you how good Widowmaker is. Widow is just so fucking good. If you don't have a tank that's going after her the entire fucking game, she literally just gets so many free picks on either your DPS or your supports, and she just turns the tides that way and kind of makes the match go in the enemy's favor, especially if they're on the enemy team. Or if they're on your team, then you just get an easy match. You kind of just roll the enemy team if nobody goes after your Widowmaker. So it's also at the same time, too, like they also have another tank. So they can actually have a tank sitting there body blocking the Widow to kind of have her do whatever she wants. She can't just get freely dove anymore because there's an extra person there to kind of peel for her and kind of body block her. So I would nerf her again. I don't know why we don't nerf Widowmaker in 5v5, and even for this playtest, like she's so fucking busted. That's probably the main DPS I think that literally has rolled the majority of my lobbies the most is Widow. I don't think there's any other DPS, at least in this playtest, that I say, yeah, this damage hero needs some type of nerfs or needs some type of rework or something, or like they need some changes again. It's not what they needed to do. Widow's literally the only one. The only one. Pharah, I think, needs changes. The main thing I would do with Pharah is I feel like there's just too much downtime with her not being able to fly in the air like the Infinite like she used to do. What they need to do is they need to make it so either you take less booster, like your booster depletes less while you're in the air, or it regens faster while you're on the ground. That's the only change I would do with her. She's playable though, but like that's why I'm just putting her needs changes tier, just maybe because I feel like she has a little bit too much downtime, especially when you're trying to fly in the air. Like during a lot of these fights, you're constantly trying to fight. There's a lot more going on, and I feel like there's a lot too much downtime with her to compare to a lot of the other heroes. Even like Echo, for example, which I think doesn't really even have the same problem. Ryan's playable. Not going to really talk about him very much. Mercy going to playable. Really solid. Torb, really solid. Hanzo, really solid. Got his one shot, it's even better, but I'm not going to talk about that in this video. All the goal is to really have the majority of the heroes actually being playable and actually good. That's what the goal is, at least with this first 6v6 playtest actually is. Winston, actually probably one of the better tanks in the game. Winston fucking sucks in 5v5, but in 6v6 I think he's actually one of the top tanks for sure. I think he's really, really good. I wouldn't put him in OP even in 6v6 because he's literally only good in this mode. Whether what people think or not, because I guess people think differently, judging by my most recent tier list. Everybody has a problem with me putting Winston in like D tier on that list, but half the people don't even watch the video, let alone have them think the tier list is for like your masters or top 500 players. Especially when in 5v5 barely anybody plays Winston at all. If you do see him, usually they're garbage players, and the only times you do see him is in your high tier play. For your average tiers of play in 5v5 you never see Winston, but in 6v6 it's actually really good. I've seen a lot of them being played and he's actually been doing really, really well. At least with this playtest so far. Zen's playable, nothing really crazy. Bastion's actually a lot better, actually. Bastion's actually a lot better because there's an extra tank you can actually shred. So you get a lot more value out of Bastion just trying to mow down the tanks or trying to shield break. So it gives him a lot more viability and another reason to kind of pick him. So that's kind of cool. Sims playable, still really solid. Zarya playable, not going to talk about her very much. McCree playable. Soldier 76, average as fuck, but feels a lot better with the extra damage. He went from 19 to 20, I think, for the playtest. From compared to 5v5, he feels a lot more consistent to play. Lucio playable. Kind of struggling at least a little bit just because of the DPS passive. I feel like there's sometimes where he needs so much healing to keep your tanks completely full on health. And like if you have a Lucio and like some other supporting team that doesn't really heal very much, like you can kind of struggle just because you get out healed by the enemy team. But I think with the removal of the damage healing anti-heal passive, a lot of the supports like Lucio and a few of the other ones are actually playable, so that's why I'm putting them in playable tier. Assuming they get rid of the passives, the role passives going forward, because that's the main thing that needs to go. All going into knee changes, I'm all for them keeping Roadhog the way he is, at least for this playtest. If they want to bring back the alternate fire on his scrap gun, that's completely fine. The main thing he needs is either he needs his cooldown. They increased the cooldown on his hook for some reason. I don't know why. His cooldown on his hook went from 6 to 8 seconds. I don't know why. If they want to keep it 8 seconds, they have two things they need to do with him, because otherwise he's really lacking. They either need to decrease the cooldown on his hook back to 6 seconds, or they need to take a breather, which is now on a cooldown, and they need to put it back to a resource. The main problem with Hog right now is he does not have the resource take a breather. People just bait out your cooldown and just fucking melt you after you use your cooldown. He's not able to like fully sustain himself like he normally would. That's the main problem. It's on way too long of a cooldown, doesn't heal nearly enough. I think that's also kind of a contributing factor too to the DPS anti-heal passive, which also could be a bit of an issue. But overall, the main thing Hog needs, even like all the other stuff, like disregard everything else I said, the main thing he needs, take a breather, should not be on a cooldown. It should be resource based. That's a quality of life change they gave Hog that I should think they should never got rid of at all. Even going back to 6v6, it should always forever be going forward be on a resource. I don't know why they put it back to a cooldown, because it makes them feel like shit to play. This is coming from a rank 135 Nintendo Switch Roadhog Prestige player. There you go. That's the only thing I would mainly change with them. You can disregard the hook change and everything, that would be great. But if they want to keep not having the pig pen and like just giving him his alternate fire and everything back, that's fine. I don't really care. But the main thing is they need to get rid of the take a breather cooldown and put it back to being a resource. That's the main thing he needs, because otherwise he feels really clunky and really bad to play. That's my main complaint with him so far. Junkrat's going to playable. Not bad. D.Va is actually a lot better in 6v6. It's crazy, y'all. D.Va is actually really good in 6v6 because you have another tank to peel for you and do your job while you go and dive and play the dive tank and the annoying tank. Who would have knew? Mei playable. Genji playable. Actually still really good. Genji is actually a lot better in 6v6 and 5v5, at least what I'm seeing so far. Ana incredibly good. I think Ana by far probably the best support out of 6v6 playtest so far. That's just mainly because of anti-nade and the target gets so much more value because there's an extra target to throw it at. So same with the anti-nade. Sombra playable, good. Orisa, not the greatest tank, but she's playable. I wouldn't say she needs changes or she's bad. I think she's actually balanced for this, actually. She's not the best fucking tank in the game for this playtest, which is great. Doomfist is really good. Probably another one of the top best tanks in the playtest for 6v6 so far. Really, really fucking good. Moira, playable, not going to talk about her very much. Brig, you could argue needs some changes. I'm going to probably put her in needs changes tier. The only thing I would actually want them to actually give Brig back is the stun on her shield bash. That's the only thing she really needs. The main thing that's holding her back right now is the DPS anti-heal passive, because I feel like her healing is kind of lacking. And like unless you're constantly fighting, you just don't really have that many heals to keep your team fully sustained. Maybe once they get rid of that shit, maybe she'll be a lot better, but I feel like you can't have 6v6 coming back without having Brig having her stun on her shield bash. Why that ever got removed, I have no idea. Give Brig her 1 second stun back on her shield bash, please. That's what she really needs. They can keep the reworked alt and all the other bullshit they did to her, but give her fucking stun back. That'd be great. especially when if you wanted to pair into a lot of these tanks and expect to fight and brawl a bunch more tanks. Right? It makes her job a lot more difficult going against 2 tanks. It really does. And she's not even that good in 5v5. At least in your lower to mid tiers of ranked. Maybe in your high tiers. At least that's another problem a lot of people think. Because I put Brig so low on my tier list recently. They had a problem with that too. But like I said, a lot of them don't watch the video, or they think the video is for high tiers of ranked for whatever reason, when I barely see Brig played at all in like my entirety of playing ranked the entire season, even like last season. That's an entirely different video though. Ball's playable. Ashe, nothing with her's really changed. Bap's really good, still playable. Sig's playable. Soldier's actually not balanced, not as good as 5v5. She's still fucking crazy in 5v5 currently, even after the nerfs they gave her for like a mini balance patch earlier this week. Junker Queen's actually really good. There's a lot of really cool combos you can actually pair with Junker Queen. A lot of really cool shit you can actually do. The 2 main ones I've actually seen that pair really well with Junker Queen, at least tank-wise, are Zarya, Hog, and Hazard. They all, like, you run like a fucking crazy fast, like, dive team, where you run like, Bubble alongside, like, Junker Queen. You make her really aggressive, keep feeding her Bubble, just let her do a bunch of work. You have the kinetic grab, or the grab to pull everybody in, plus like a Junker Queen ult into that as well. You pretty much anti-heal everybody and just pretty much wipe a team. I've seen that plenty of times already too. Really, really good. And then you also have it alongside Hog, where you can actually just play with the Hog the entire game, rely on his hooks, and just dive on his hooks. So if like he hooks a tank, you just both dive onto one of the tanks. That type of thing, just kind of play off of what he hooks. Really, really good. I think Junker Queen, a lot of people thought she was not going to be good for 6v6, but she's probably one of the better tanks for 6v6 in all things considered. And she'll probably even be better once they get rid of the anti-heal passive. I think that's another thing that's a little bit holding her back, so she'll even be better. Kiriko, lacking heals, but I think that problem will be fixed once they get rid of the DPS or anti-heal passive. Ramatra, really solid, playable. Lifeweaver, playable. Still, I don't know why, like, Lifeweaver is literally like a heal bot, and I'm even struggling to keep, like, everything fully sustained with heals during this, and I think that's just mainly because of the DPS anti-heal passive. Once they get rid of that, I think Lifeweaver will be a lot better, but even right now, that's always to show you, like, Lifeweaver is literally, like, probably the most heal body supports in the game, and if you're struggling on Lifeweaver to keep a team fully sustained, there's a problem, and I think that's the main problem that needs to go. Otherwise, I think he still could be. He's still really good, though. Illari actually really good. I think Illari is actually better than this in 5v5. I'm not going to put an OP even in 6v6 here, but I think Illari is actually even better in 6v6 than 5v5, just because you get so much more value out of your totem, and a lot more people don't really want to destroy it because there's a lot more stuff going on the map. So if they take time to go destroy your totem, then they either get dove on or they're missing out on something, whether it's an objective or like their team fighting or whatever that type of stuff is. So you get a lot more value out of her totem as long as it doesn't get destroyed, and like she also has a really solid ult, so I think she's actually better in 6v6 if I'm being 100% real. Seeing a lot more Illari actually doing really well in this playtest. Malga's playable. Not really busted like he currently is in 5v5. He's actually manageable in 6v6. Who would have guessed? Venture is actually really good. Really, really good. Venture, at least for 6v6, is incredibly good. I think she's actually playable now, y'all. In 5v5, she fucking sucks. She's fucking garbage, but in this, if you want to actually play them, they're actually really good. You can actually get kills with your ult, like you actually do damage, you can actually brawl some of the tanks. 5v5, you try brawling a tank, you just fucking fall over and die right away. Like, I think she's probably one of the main DPS that would benefit from going to 6v6 out of everybody. I really do. 5v5 Venture is being held back. I don't know why they threw Venture into 5v5 when she's way better in 6v6. She really is. Plus that there's also now another bunch more going on with that extra tank on a team as well. It allows you to like dive a lot more freely and kind of play as like a close range hero that actually wants to get in close and fight close, because there's a lot more distractions going on and like a lot more team fighting. So it gives you a lot more opportunities to actually get kills and kind of fight and make opportunities for yourself. Plus, you also have a tank that can, another tank there that can actually peel for you and actually help you in a lot of situations. Really, really solid. I think Venture's really, really good in 6v6. Juno, I think she's playable. Kind of a bit held back by the DPS passive, but at the same time, her heals are still really, really good. And like her ult's just incredibly busted still, so. And they got Hazard, which I think is also really solid in 6v6. Really, really solid. Nothing with him might really change. Like, he's still really incredibly good in 5v5 currently, even after like the ult charge nerf they gave him like a few days ago. But I think in 6v6 he's actually manageable because you have an extra tank there to kind of negate what he's trying to do, or at least try to fight him most of the time. So he's not able to just sit and dive on your entire team freely or just do whatever he wants the entire game, no matter what you do. So apart from that, that's like the entire like list, at least so far. Like at least kind of what everybody, like at least where all the heroes, at least right now for the first playtest, I think kind of think where they are. Widow's still busted. I think they need to nerf Widow some way. At least what I would do with her, and I would change her from a hit scan to a projectile sniper. I don't know why they don't do that. It would solve so many balance changes. I don't know why they don't do that though. Make it so she has a projectile sniper that has fall off after a certain point. That's what they need to do. Similar to what they do in Apex Legends with the charge rifle. The reworked charge rifle. Like take a little bit of a clue from Apex and kind of copy their homework and apply it to Widowmaker. I think that's exactly what they need to do with her. Give her the charge rifle treatment and make her into, instead of a hit scan, into a projectile that has fall off after a certain range. That has like an arcing fall off. So you can actually need skill to actually play her because you have to compensate for arcing fall off. I think that'd be actually really, really good for her. Apart from that, you have a few other heroes that kind of need some small changes, but like none of this is really major. It's not like you need like an entire rework or like some major buffs for a lot of this stuff and like needs change. Like all this is minor stuff. Like that's literally what it is. But I think overall for this playtest though, like everything's pretty much viable. If you want to play something, you can pretty much play anything, and I think everything does something for this. So really, really surprised how good everything actually is balanced, which is really saying something because Blizzard usually always fumbles the balance. They probably will going forward. They're going to get some solid feedback, which is also what I'm giving them in this video. And they're going to take all the feedback, and it's going to go in one ear and out the other. And then for this next playtest for 6v6, whenever that may be, they're going to throw all the feedback they got down the toilet, and it's going to be somehow worse than the first one. So, I don't know. Let me know what you guys think of the 6v6 playtest down below, at least for the iteration number 1. Are you guys enjoying it? Do you guys think it's good? What do you guys think needs to be changed or improved on, and what needs to be nerfed or kind of changed for the kind of bring stuff back in line? Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Like I said, overall, I've been enjoying the 6v6 playtest. Probably the most fun I've had with the game for at least like 10 seasons. Literally the only reason I'm probably playing the game as much as I am currently, at least for season 14. If there was no 6v6 playtest, I don't know how much I'd really be playing. Maybe like 1 or 2 games a day, and then just going on and get my daily challenges done, and it's being done. Maybe a little bit of ranked on the weekends, and that's about it. But like right now, I'm actually playing a decent amount, just mainly because the 6v6 playtest is just so fun. So it also makes a lot of other heroes that normally aren't that good in 5v5 a lot more viable, and it also gives you another opportunity to actually play tank, because tank queues, funny enough, are actually not that high. Which a lot of people thought they were going to be. They're actually not that high. They're literally like about the same as all the other roles currently. So, and it's been about 4 or 5 days. At least one of you guys are probably seeing this. So, in the span of that much time already, you think tank queue times would actually increase just because people don't want to play tank, but they're actually about the same as all the other rules. So, people ate their words on that one too. Oh, nobody wants 6v6 because the tank queue rules are going to be really high, and nobody's going to want to play tank. Well, at least right now, at least for within the first week, the tank rule times, at least on my end, what I've seen, are about the same as all the other rules. So, I think that's an argument people can kind of shove and not use anymore because it got proven wrong multiple times now. Leave a like, subscribe, share the video. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. I'm gonna get out of here. Peace out, everybody.